everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living. We are a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week we have Dr. Paul Meckes, and he's an ordained minister and doctor in metaphysics with 30 years of field research in the paranormal and spiritual studies. He's also the host and director of Conscious Radio Network, of which I am a huge fan, and they broadcast weekly audio and video podcasts called The Seance. It's a series of episodes which help bring to light the tools that help the human race, live in harmony with itself and the cosmos. I was a guest on his show, and I was just blown away by everything about this guy. So thank you so much, Paul, for coming on the show. And now is the time to tell our audience where you're from, how old you are, and what generation, if any, you consider yourself a member of.
I definitely don't look my age. I'll be 50 in just over a year.
Wow.
And good genes, not them. Here in the Central Florida area, originally not from Florida. I'm originally from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
So anybody from New England, hello, how you doing? It's been a while since I've been up there. I definitely miss the mountains. And there was something
do you believe you belong to a generation? And if so, which one?
What is it? The Z generation. What is it? Generation Z. Was it Z? I don't even keep up with the letters anymore.
Yeah. I think they call you X, but that's kind of why I asked the question, is just to gauge.
Xers, Generation Xers. Yeah. So, 77, 76, according to the Chinese calendar. So.
Yeah, and you and I, were in what they call a micro generation, according to these experts on the human race, of which you and I are complete morons about, right? So,
right.
I'm going to ask you questions about Conscious Radio Network in a little bit. I think I want to just more get our audience a feel for you, because while that is an empire and you have built it and it's amazing, I'm more curious about your life trajectory up to the point where you're creating that. How and what and when got you into metaphysics in a serious sense? So, I mean, all of us at some point, think about God, heaven, hell, death, depending on where we grew up and all that. But what drove you to be serious about it?
I think I definitely believe that being the only child, having a lot of that time alone, aloneness, working inward, moving inward, and contemplating on the meanings of life. I didn't have as much time, living with a sibling and all that other outside playtime. All of that playtime was in here and in here. And I feel that was the harbinger of what was to come, then to realize that I started questioning everything. And I've always been connected and always have been questioning and always been seeing, feeling, hearing the unknown, whether people call them ghosts, spirits. Always been interested in it. And as I never got bored of it, because I'm going, this is something, there's something bigger to this. Why? And then as I got older, I think that pivotal point in my life was right after my divorce, and about 12, 13 years ago, that's when it happened. Starting to blame myself, realizing that there's got to be something better than it. Why me? Is it me? What the heck is going on? And I started reaching out to some friends and colleagues and people in the field, which is interesting, because I wasn't in metaphysics like I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew a lot of people. It was like you become the company you keep.
Yeah.
And they were like, do this, do that, do that, do this. I found a local college, and they offered degrees in metaphysics in general, from paranormal to metaphysics to Reiki to whatever type of practitioner you wanted to be in the field. They offered that real training. And I didn't think that I could get a degree in the paranormal or anything like that. I'm like, all right, I'll go for it. And a couple of years later, did my bachelor's, master's, then my doctorate. So,
Wow.
and but when I was going through that degree work, mainly focusing on the paranormal, and investigating, scientifically investigating the phenomenon,
Hmm.
what types of phenomenon they are, um, and the forensic aspect, the scientific aspect of it, not just going on a weekend, party type paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
We've done those, but those are kind of just boring.
Yeah.
I was in for it. I was in for the science, and because I wanted this explanation, I wanted to see what it was all about, and so then working as, and I knew this growing up too as a child. I had these gifts. I had, seeing things, hearing things, communication with spirit and stuff. And I realized, hey, I think I'm a medium. I think I'm psychic. Everybody's psychic in some level.
Hmm.
So I started to attune to that and started working with that, going to schools, going to churches, different programs and stuff, and then got my certification as a spiritualist medium, and starting a paranormal investigation group. Then Spirit came to me one day and said, "You need to have a radio show." And I'm like, "What?" When you hear that,
Yeah.
there's many other things I've heard. There's a lot of other things that Spirit have told me through the years, but this was like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay." And when things are meant to be, when you don't really have to question them, because the synchronicities will start to fall in place.
Totally.
Because I realized that one of my friends and colleagues and parishioners in church was actually a radio DJ
Wow.
and worked in radio, and he was a technician. And I go up to him. I'm like, "Hey, you won't believe what I'm about to tell you." He's like, "Throw it at me." In a spiritualist church, really? And I go, "Spirit told me I need to start a radio show." He's like, "Oh." And I think I need your help. Where do I start? So we gathered all the material, took a couple weeks, and literally almost overnight launched an online broadcasting radio show live every weekend, for about, just short of a year. And yeah, 4-hour episodes, like a real actual radio show. People
Yeah.
in, take calls, all kinds of stuff. And then it evolved after that into a podcast. I had to take a break, did some offshore out of other countries, working in China and stuff like that, and but came back and I'm like, a few years later, I have to look at this in spirit once again. Like, one weekend, it was like, you need to do your radio show again, bring it back up, start doing it. What are you doing? I'm like, okay, let's do it. And literally that weekend, I'm online, getting everything all set up. And when things are meant to be, when you go online and you see if consciousradionetwork.com is available, because it wasn't when I started it originally. .net was the only thing available.
Wow.
It was available. Now it's consciousradionetwork.com, and it has been since 2015.
That's all incredible, and I think the most important questions I always have for people with confidence like you, because I did not have your confidence, even though I felt everything you just related to me, until much later in life, and that's just owed to my personality, my not my upbringing. My parents were very open minded, but the community I was in was not.
Yeah.
So I am curious: did you ever, at any point in your life, experience backlash from people you cared about, like people that it hurt your feelings, it maybe made you question the things that you're interested in your research, or did you always have this confidence?
I really didn't care. I didn't care. It was like I knew there were people out there that would just look at you like deer in headlights, or just like, throw holy water on you and force you to come to church.
Hmm.
That never really bothered me, because I just knew. You just know down to the soul that this is your truth,
Hmm.
and nothing's going to stop you. And um I never really had a problem because I felt that if this was my light, I wouldn't have to draw people. People would be drawn to it. And sure enough, when people realize that when your light shines, when your truth shines, like attracts like energy. Whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever your tribe is, they will come. And when you start working that field, when you start working that work, that as a light worker, essentially is what we are. Um, they come. Like, what was that movie? The Field of Dreams.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah. If you build
they'll
it,
come.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. It's the universe does it for you.
I like that a lot, and I'm curious for the people on my show, not on my show, people who listen, who are interested in the science side of things, because you said you specifically were interested and drawn into the science of metaphysics, studying the science of the paranormal. What new technology do you expect to emerge, or do you have any like ideas about maybe, because I do believe like Neuralink has come out where we're able to now like somewhat get into people's brains and thought processes in ways we didn't even imagine we could. They have robotic arms that are attached to soldiers that work with their brain, like things like that. So I imagine these things are going to be advanced enough to start detecting what you already experience and things like that. And so what, do you see any of that? Do you know of any things? Do you have anything to share with our audience?
I think that some of the technology that we've had for the longest time, we're not giving as much credit to as we should.
Cool.
Um, and for instance, you look at the history of the telephone. I mean, the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone primarily to communicate with his mother that
That's
had
right.
passed. That was the invention of the telephone. That was the premise of the invention, was to communicate to the dead. Same with the Victrola, was for him to be able to speak to the dead. And hence in spiritualism they have what they call a trumpet, which is a metal I've got one up and behind me here, but I can't see it. It's basically it's basically like that, a giant horn
Hmm.
where spirit can speak through it. That was the premise of all of this technology in the past, but we don't realize that was the reason. Our tech, I think we just are not using the technology um enough. We're not giving credit to the technology. Now, the future technology, that future is already here. There is, I think, a friend of mine told me that one of my colleagues, they're using this technology in France, where they're using like a laser light technology, and they're creating this field to where, and energizing the field, energizing the air and the field, and using laser light and I think like fog or mist, water molecules, and they're electrifying it and energizing it to where it will allow, or ionizing, and this would allow spirits to be able to manifest, and to where you would actually, it's kind of like helping a spirit manifest in this dimension,
Hmm.
sort of what it's doing. um I haven't seen much of it used lately. I've seen it a few years ago, but I haven't seen it come out lately. Now, when it comes to when it comes to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, CERN, I believe in Switzerland, with the Large Hadron Collider out there, some of those scientists have been working on several experiments mistakenly, as they're working on as they're working on one thing, they're starting to realize, like, whoa, wait a second. I think we just explained how the soul exists, or how we can be in two places at one time,
Yeah, yeah.
or consciousness. So they're stumbling upon these things in quantum science, to kind of really explain some of the things that we would otherwise call paranormal or supernatural. But in my opinion, there's nothing paranormal or supernatural. Everything, everything's paranormal, because it is normal.
Yeah.
It, it's when you, it's, I said this once, one of on another podcast, and it's when it comes to the paranormal, it's always related to the human element. There's the human element that's always the human agent's always involved. Always involved. It would otherwise it wouldn't be paranormal. And it's at whether a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there. Does anybody hear it? Does it make a sound? It's sort of like that.
Yeah, yeah.
My opinion, paranormal is happening all the time. We just don't realize it.
Yeah, I actually I'm writing about this right now, but the term "there's a glitch in the matrix" to me, we are the glitch. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep,
And
we don't realize it.
yeah, I'm totally with you. I love it. I was gonna say like paranormal has all. It doesn't offend me, but like it's already putting us in a defensive position. It's already placing us on the outside. It's already moving us away from the center of the conversation, and as if to say, we don't have time for this. Pay attention to the economy, pay attention to politics, like keep this narrow focus on what we control and your sense of control. And so I really, that's why this show for me is special now, is I get to bring audiences, guests and audiences and connect them. And, I just hope that there's like a trickle down effect of like, some wisdom here, some wisdom there, because I know that skeptics and different people have different mindsets, and I'm not here to convince people of things, but I am here to help people keep an open mind. So with that said, what's your best party story? What's like the best paranormal story that you have in your, I'm sure you have many, but is there one that you love to tell? Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to MikeYop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MikeYopp.com. Thanks.
We had one, the one that comes to mind, the first one, we were doing an investigation in a mansion that's close to this area. I don't want to mention it. Well, I'll mention it. There's a place here in the Central Florida area called Howey in the Hills. And the founder of the town, William Howey, he built this mansion many years ago, 30s, 40s, and it was abandoned for the longest time. And we were one of the first, I think we were the first paranormal crew to go in and just do an investigation. And before it was turned over to, I guess it was sold to somebody, but it was abandoned for the longest time. We're like, hey, okay, let's take the whole weekend. We'll take 2 nights and go in and like do multiple levels of investigation. We'll go in, and I might as well just use this investigation as the whole storyline. Is we set off the investigation as we started it on, and it was cold. That I think it was in the winter. Yeah, it was in the wintertime, so it was already naturally cold out. And we started off with a table tipping. And for those who don't know what a table tipping seance is you have some mediums around a table, and one person charges the table. The head medium charges the table with the energy, and then the table acts kind of like the planchette as it would on a Ouija board. But the energy comes through the table and it starts dancing around. The energy goes towards the people, and it's a yes or no question type thing, similar to that. And this was done in the hall, the main open hall and it's a big house. It's a mansion. It's enormous. And obviously there's nothing in there, just this giant, huge open wooden floor. And some of the best mediums that of the whole Central Florida area were involved. And bringing everybody in, bringing the late Reverend Ben Cox. I want to throw his name out here. He passed away 7 years ago. He did most of my studies and works were with him. And we sit around the table, start doing the work. I myself am the audio guy. I was like, you know something? I put the case together. Let me just stand back and just be a technician, and I'll observe everything and manage everything else. So I was in the background, kind of doing the audio. Friend Justin was the video guy. We're capturing everything. There's one tool I wish I had, was the thermal cam. We didn't have one. I wanted to borrow. These were expensive back then. Expensive. Didn't have the money for it. I tried to reach out to local fire departments to see if they could donate one to the to the society. Couldn't find any. Now I got one. I can hook it up to my cell phone, for Christ's sake. What? Well, what was extraordinary during that seance was that the room temperature was about 60 some degrees. But during the table tipping seance, there was a column of ice cold air that shot up from the floor up and through the table into the ceiling. You could put your hand over the table and it felt like you were putting your hand in a deep freezer.
Wow.
And if I were to capture, I could almost see it. It was like if I could have captured this on a thermal camera, this would have been the perfect evidence to turn over to any society, SPR, anybody, to show of this type of physical phenomenon that was happening. And then through that seance, the Reverend Ben was like, I just want to let you know there's a line of spirits, as though they were lined up waiting at the DMV to get their driver's license, just waiting in line to get to the table to speak and say something, have their turn. And one famous spirit came to show his I guess his glory was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Wow.
And when Reverend Ben said that, we're like, what? He's like, yeah, Conan Doyle is here and he just wanted to say hi to everybody. I'm like, all right on, cool. But throughout that night, that was an extraordinary thing. But it just went on. It just went on. We had two mediums. I had one medium to do a walkthrough, do some readings throughout the property, and then I had another medium come in later after that because I wanted to use the first medium as a control to get to the first piece of the information. No other information of that first reading would ever be shared with anybody. And then I brought another medium in to do some basically the same places in another reading to see if they corresponded, and yes, they did.
Wow.
And yeah. And what was really cool is at the end of the whole investigation, I mean, there's so much information in this.
No, it's cool.
Give you the best parts of it. So a lot's happened. A lot of information has been captured. I remember the day that we were getting ready to leave. We're wrapping everything up, and sun was coming up. We were getting everything done, and we wanted to take a final walk of the place. And one of our investigators, she was like one of our other mediums. She's like, I want to go upstairs and do an EVP, see if I can pick up anything. Like, all right. So I give her the recorder. Me and Jester are downstairs, just walking the gardens and stuff like that. And moments later, we hear her like yelling. We're like, oh my God, what happened? She runs downstairs. She runs out into the garden. She's like, I got something. And sure enough, she was sitting in the hallway upstairs, one of the major hallways through the master bedroom area. And I forget what the questions were, but she was asking some questions, and you can hear an utterance of an answer come through the recorder.
Wow.
Of like, I'm here, or something like that. And it's like, I mean, clear as day.
Yeah.
Nobody else other than herself was in there. And yeah, it was like, and she like freaked out. She's like, oh my God. So
that's incredible. I have two direct questions related to all that, but I think the first one is the most important, which is the actual point of the show, which is what do you think happens when you die? And I'm sure you have a very confident answer. I'm going to go ahead and throw out a second answer with it, or sorry, a second question, just so you can deal with them in whichever order you prefer, based on that story and just based on folklore and most people's general childhood memories of these discussions. I'd like to know, what do you think happens when you die? And then also, when it comes to spirits and non-humans, let's just say that, is there anything for us to fear?
So the answer to the first one is what happens to us when we die. We don't truly die. Our bodies, what happens, the death of the body is what happens. You know, it's the vessel. The when the body dies, our soul, our consciousness, and spiritualism is there is no death. It's the continuation of the consciousness that actually never dies. That continues. And my thought is, I was explaining this to a couple people, um, that sometimes it's a little it kind of it's weird to kind of talk about it because it's like, what? I've gone into certain stages of not hypnosis. Well, it's kind of like hypnosis. Stages of meditation, deep states of meditation, and channeled, um, and gone through stages of death and experiencing stages of death, which even today I can't put my finger on whether these were experiences I experienced in past lives or these are accounts of death that I am co-experiencing with the collective. Um, but when I've gone through these experiences is depending on what happens when we die, you know, as a car accident is something tragic and stuff like that. When we leave, I mean, I have had an out of body experiences. I have left my body once during a motorcycle accident many years ago. So I know what it feels like. It's like eons of time are going by and you can't explain. You're seeing everything happen and you're like, what's going on? Um, and but depending on that moment of death, you leave your body. You're gone. You don't feel anything. You're just sometimes you do. Who don't you don't know. But depending on what your level of consciousness, what state were you in when you left the body? You know, were you in a state of fear? Were you in a state of comfort? Were you in a state of anxiety? Were you in a state? It depends what was going on at that moment of time. That energy, those experiences that you take with you, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And in that state, you're now transitioning on the other side, the other dimension. And you're kind of like, okay, what, you know, you either move on, you either stay, you either, you know, it depends. Um, and some of the cases that I've worked to kind of show that there can be moments where we're confused.
Mm-hmm.
Our consciousness is confused, our soul or our consciousness is confused, and we don't know which way to go. Should we stay? Should we go? We don't know. Um, and that's pretty much it. That's what happens when it's just the physical form that actually dies. We don't. Our consciousness just continues. So the fear of death, it's always been taboo because we've always kind of like, oh my god, I believe me, none of us are going to get out of this alive.
Yeah.
None. What was the second question?
The second question, and real quick, just because I want to relate to you, I was hit by a car on a bicycle. It ran a stop sign, and I experienced what you did with the motorcycle. Like, it is preposterously weird to explain to people who haven't experienced it, but like time just crawls. I was aware of like things down the street and like, I mean, it's just crazy how much. And it wasn't like 360-degree vision or anything crazy like that. It was just literally like a knowing and awareness, and I was able to repeat details later that like confounded many people. It didn't blow their mind so much as they were like, wow, I can't, you really did get that. I was very far away from you and you read my facial expressions. That's interesting. So just to relate to you on that. And then the question, because I think this comes up a lot of children especially are like scared of ghosts and scared of spirits, and people like hear a weird noise in the house and it scares them. I don't feel that way, and I never have. I even once was in like a plant medicine circle, and all these people kept telling me to be afraid of these things that were going to come, and they came and they didn't scare me. It just didn't work. I was like, well, whatever, they're just like here. So I'm curious, is there, because I don't have your experience and I do not have your knowledge, is there actually something I should fear? Can these entities take over our bodies? Can they do the things that some people claim they do?
Um, it's all about the power of belief. We have got to take our own power back. If we can harness our own power and realize that, hey, I have my own power and I keep my own power. There shouldn't be anything I choose not to fear. And if your faith is strong too, it depends on how you know, if you believe in God, if you believe in Christ, if you believe in wherever your founding is, wherever your founding religion is, and your foundational belief is, that is your foundation. That's what kind of keeps you grounded. Um, and then that other belief of having your own power can definitely keep and ward away that. And there shouldn't be no fear whatsoever. Now, when it comes to when it comes to the flip side of that, um, I've had several discussions with the Archbishop and of the Order of Exorcists, which uh, I'm currently an affiliate clergy member of. I see I see emails all the time, almost on a daily basis, of somebody needing help in a potential exorcism, blah 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 blah. Exorcism is very rarely an actual exorcism, very very rarely. I've partaken in several. They're not exorcisms; they're more of cleansings, getting rid of attachments, spiritual attachments. Um, Speaking with the archbishop and a couple other clergy members and stuff, and we were always raised, there's no such thing as that monster under the bed, or no such thing as a monster in the closet, blah 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 blah. It's all about how you believe. If a child believes that there's a monster in the closet, guess what? There's a monster in the closet. It's all about belief. But when it comes to demons, when it comes to spiritual warfare, that does exist. Mm-hmm. There is a spiritual warfare going on. There is something crazy going on here. I've had several guests on the show. I've had several shows, several episodes on my show where we've had electronic issues that we normally do not have. And the last guest I had, we were doing a recording, and and he made a comment. He's like, when there is information to be shared that is profound into bettering and creating joy and light and better life in a particular individual or individuals, and is good light, good energy, there are entities out there that can come in there and kind of mess with things and go, hey, this shouldn't be said, or that should be said. I definitely believe that. I've experienced it so many times. It's like, well, it can't be anything else. It's like, um, and with some of the practitioners out there on, in the church and all these other different fields and stuff like that, that otherwise don't really believe in it, but are like, have this proof to show that of attack, that, they were in the wrong place, they were doing the wrong thing in the wrong time. I tell people, just be careful what you dabble into. Mm-hmm. If you dabble into the dark stuff, you're gonna get dark stuff. If you believe in dark things, you're gonna get dark things. I don't even watch horror movies anymore.
Wow.
Really, really, really disgusting horror. I was like, really? Why? Why would anybody watch stuff like that? It just lowers your vibration. That's what it's all about, is keeping your vibration high. You watch stuff like that, you surround your stuff with, dark, evil stuff. Whether you're just doing it for vanity, it doesn't matter. It's lowering your vibration. You are the energy you keep.
That is incredibly profound. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. I really, that is so profound to me, because the first time I met someone who is light and works with light and who had, just so much to give, she like just casually kept mentioning, like, oh, well, I don't like entertain that kind of stuff. I mean, I understand that it's out there, but and she kept talking about like heavy vibrations, lower vibrations. And it just sounded like so farcical to me. But then, like, as I got older and wiser and just different events kicked my ass, including a divorce, it just started to make sense. And so I never made that connection, though, that like, I used to think when you die, your ego dies, and that like spirits wouldn't have an ego and they wouldn't be ego driven. But when you said there's like a spiritual warfare, it does make sense. So I guess, and it's fine to say I can't answer that. I'm not at that level or whatever. But are we pawns in their war? Are we coexisting in a war? Like, is there any order to this hierarchy?
It's it's really hard. It's like I can't say yes or no.
Hmm.
From the information that I've gathered, the people that I work with, and the channels that I work through, is it's jealousy. We were given the power. We were given we were given these freedoms. We were given, you know, the ability as spirits to embody this vessel, to have free choice, to have free will, to be able to do whatever the heck we want, whether it's good or bad. And like you said, pawns. Yes, we are kind of like these pawns. We're like, I don't know, we're just available. We're just available food for
Yeah.
these other entities. These and I've I wouldn't say I've witnessed. Well, yeah, maybe I have. I hadn't seen it, but I felt it. I've on two occasions. I've felt an entity so dark in my present within my presence, where it's like you you can tell that they're after your soul.
Hmm.
And with some of the colleagues and some of the people that I've worked with in the past that have been attacked, um, are like, there's no other reason why they would be doing this other than that they want our soul. They want to destroy us. They just want to see the torture that they can put us through.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's not far fetched to me, and it makes sense, and it would make sense on every level. And as I try to make sense of just the practical supposed reality I'm existing in right now, you're existing in the year 2025. Sometimes I wonder. I'm like, is this person, especially people who have sea changes, people who just suddenly switch, like in their alignment and what their values are, things like that. So, thank you for answering all these questions. I have a surprise question to throw at you that I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm really curious because I follow you and we talk on Facebook. You've told us directly that you're writing a book, which really excites me because you're smart, you're interesting, you have a good sense of humor, and I'm a writer and I have an MFA and I teach writing, and I try to encourage everyone to write, but the people I encourage to publish are people like yourself. You have a lot to say, you have an intelligent way to say it, and you have a good turn of phrase. So, how is that book coming? How are you feeling about all that? How's that working out for you?
the book is pretty much done.
Awesome.
Right now, it's kind of just I'm very critical when it comes to my work, whether it's broadcasting, writing, painting, drawing, anything. I'm very critical. Um, I'm trying to make sure the way I'm saying it is the way I want to say it and the way I want it read. I want to make sure I'm not repeating myself, and if I do, if there is any repeating in the book, it's there for a reason. It's
Yeah.
mean pay attention to this key point. Um, but it's gonna be interesting. It's
Awesome.
gonna take it's as a sneak peek. The book opens up in the first chapter, taking us back in time at the beginning of the human origin. Where
Cool.
did we come from? Where did the human spirit originate? And how come we've gotten lost? How come our technology has gotten lost? Or does it? Is it really lost? And about the human consciousness, and where did we lose all of the original techniques and knowledge of our origins, and how to hone in on that, how to basically get back to our origins and our power. And then it's eventually I want to make some workbooks too of the book eventually. So each
Well, that's
chapter has its own workbook.
That's cool. I believe in you, and I believe in your mission, and I believe in your radio network, and I believe in just everything. Especially though, most of all, your heart. Like it's just there and it's obvious. And when I go on a lot of shows, and they're all hit and miss in their own ways, but yours was just total hit, and I really liked your professionalism, but also your candor. You just have like you're doing the good work. Like you said, it's light. And so thank you for that. I do always give my guests the floor at the end of the interview, which is just your chance to reach my audience, to tell them whatever you want. You of course could plug your stuff, but it's going to be in the notes. It's really not an opportunity for that. It's just what is your spiritual message for my audience?
Yeah. Well, as a takeaway, definitely a takeaway is don't lie to yourself. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Don't be, just to impress other people around you. We all get caught up in this growing up, and don't worry about that. Be true to yourself. You know who you are. And that's where some of my book comes into, is helping us remember who we are. Who are we really? And pay attention to those synchronicities in your life that lead you into discovering who you truly are. And don't veer away from that, because as soon as you start lying to yourself, people will start seeing that. The universe starts seeing that. God starts seeing that. And being close to the grace of God. Stand in the grace of God and be whoever your God is. It doesn't matter. It is everything. God is everything. But understanding that grace and being in the light of that grace is awesome. So when you lie to yourself, you lie to God, you lie to everybody else. Be unique. Be yourself.
Thank you. That's
welcome.
Incredible.
You're welcome. And for those who want to see the Conscious Radio Network, go to consciousradionetwork.com. Everything is right there.
Cool. There will be a direct link in the notes section of this, and also on the page where I post it. Dr. Paul Meckes, thank you so much for coming on our show. Everyone, please go out there and try to support him. And also, if you want to support this show, as always, the best way is to head over to MikeyOpp.com. That's MIKEYOPP.com, and sign up for the free email service that I run, which includes fiction, nonfiction, music, videos, all this other zany stuff, and of course the podcast announcement every single week. Once again, we have been talking with Dr. Paul Meckes, and my name is Mike Oppenheim. You have been listening or watching Coffin Talk, and we will see you soon.